It's not every day you get a chance to talk to the Ironman, Kyle Ripken Jr., about everything baseball, but when you do, it's best to sit back and listen. Hello, everyone. I'm Jabbar Young, senior writer here at Forbes. In a minute, I'll be joined by the Ironman, Kyle Ripken Jr., and we're talking about a lot of stuff. The pitch clock in baseball, new rule changes, his new business endorsement with a popular software company, Ripken Baseball, the strategic investment behind that, and the business behind it, all that and more with Kyle Ripken Jr., the Iron Man, right now. And so look, I'll get into it like this. What is Kyle Ripken up to these days? Because the last time I saw you in person, you were at a Sixers game during the playoffs. And I'm like, wait a minute. I could be crazy, but that's Kyle Ripken sitting over there. And here was you. What are you up to these days now that the NBA is over?
Well, I mean, I had the chance after I retired from baseball at 41. Most people think retirement means you're playing golf every day or you're going on vacation every other week. To me, it was an opportunity to build a second career, sort of a business career. And so we had a kids business, and we built a foundation in the name of my dad that I've gotten more than I need to have on my plate right now. But it's all learning to me. I'm fun. And the Sixers game, I'm a basketball fan. I don't know if you knew that about me. I built a gym in the house. I played basketball, had really good basketball players over. So when I had a chance to go up, David Blitzer and Josh Harris invited me up for Game 6. Maybe they thought I was going to be a good luck charm. It didn't turn out that way.
Oh, no, it didn't.
But I love the game, and sitting right there that close, you really have an appreciation for those guys out on the floor.
Yeah. I say it all the time. Proximity is what connects basketball to fans. The fact that you're so close to the game. I mean, you can't be that close with baseball for, obviously, it's dangerous in a way. Football and hockey the same way. But basketball, it's like that is the one sport where you can be right up there in person. Well, I'm glad you like the game. And me being a Philadelphia native, I'm sorry that you, once again, you haunted us, right? You beat us in the World Series, and you were the reason why we lost that game against the Celtics, I believe it was.
Yeah, the Celtics came back. The Sixers had a chance to close it out in the game, and they led for a good portion of the game. But then Tatum got hot in the end, and turned it all around. But
that's just how it is in Philadelphia. Boston kills us. Baltimore kills us. It is what it is. But hey, listen, we're in the middle of the baseball season, Kyle, and I love baseball as well, and so do you. You love baseball as well, right? You got 2,000 plus games to prove it consecutively in a row. But when you think about looking at the game nowadays, like when you watch MLB, what do you see?
Well, I mean, some of the changes in the game I wasn't too happy about when I heard and listened to it. I'm thinking, okay, baseball's not a game that's on a clock.
Yeah.
There's a pace to it that's natural and it's good, and there's a lot going on. And I think the education of what goes on. But baseball did get to the point where there was a lot of dead time. And people were taking a lot of the dead time, and it wasn't as appealing. So that clock, although I didn't like a clock being out there on the field, like a shot clock in basketball, it didn't seem like it fit with baseball. It has shaped the behavior, and the pace of game has kind of gone back to where it used to be, that rhythm. Pitchers on the mound ready to hit, hitters in the box. I laugh a little bit when I talk about this. The walk-up music became a popular thing towards the end of my career. And it almost seemed like it was an opportunity for the hitter in the on-deck circle to wait till his walk-up music, he's looking up the press box, and then stroll his way to the thing, get in, has his routine, step out, good, all that kind of stuff. And you just want to say, hey, just get up to the box and hit. Let's get the action rolling. And I think that's what's happened. I'm not crazy about only 2 throws to first base. I'm not crazy about a ghost runner on second base because I think you have to earn your way, to get on to win that game in extra innings. But some of these changes have really made the game move, and a lot more people are coming back to the game, especially the younger audience, because the younger audience wants to be entertained in many different ways, and they want things to happen, a little faster. So I think it's good for baseball, and I think we might get some young fans interested in the game, which then will help grow the game all the way across.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, and I want to definitely get your take on that. Young fans getting involved with baseball, especially black, athletes and black fans, because I think that the sport, they could really do a better job at targeting. But regardless, that in a minute, keeping it on the field in the majors for a second. So you do like the pitch clock now. So you have grown to kind of like that.
I think it's one of those things that shape the behavior,
Yeah.
and maybe you won't need it so
Right.
much. The umpires always had the ability to enforce the rule that you had to throw a pitch like within 20 seconds anyway, but they didn't have a mechanism to enforce that. And now the clock is a visual reminder, and the umpire gets to watch, and everybody knows what's going on. And so it has pushed the game, and I do like the clock, but I hope at some point maybe the clock kind of goes away and the pace of the game, it just happens all by itself.
Yeah, yeah. Now listen, I can't front. I do like the man on second to start extra innings, though, Kyle. I like that because you still have a strategy there, right? There is a strategy to be played with that man on second. It's different, but as you said, I have my 9-year-old at the Yankees Red Sox game, and we didn't quite make it to the extra innings, but I would have felt comfortable knowing that okay, this is not going to get to a point where it's going to get 11 o'clock at night. But I like it. I feel like that makes the game go faster if it is extra innings. And again, for a younger fan, I think it adds that excitement.
Yeah, I'll argue with you a little bit on this one.
I'm going to lose that argument because I can't argue with Kyle Ripken.
Well, I remember seeing it. It was an Olympic thing, and I always felt that maybe it was more of an amateur play.
Yeah.
So if you think the game of the baseball is 162, but now with the extra rounds of the playoffs and opportunities, it boils down to one game out of that 162 that could make a difference. So to me, when you're playing in one of those extra inning games, you have an advantage if you can get somebody in the scoring position. And I know it's fair for both teams supposedly, but if your manager manages your bullpen effectively, and then you have more people ready, then they have a better chance of winning that game than you would if you put somebody on. Like, I think you put somebody on, they bunt him over, or they hit a ground ball to second base, advance him to third, hit a medium sac fly to center field, close play at the plate, they score a run, and that team can win without really earning a way to get on first base or second base. Without any base hit or any offense generated by them. It just seemed like it was happenstance that they got in. So since I went to the last day of the season in 1982, in my rookie year, a long, long time ago, and we lost to the Milwaukee Brewers by one game. We were tied after 161, dead tied, and we had to play each other in that last game. So it's almost a sudden death playoff game anyway. Really exciting series. We used to think, where could we have made up that one game? And I keep thinking that extra inning game where somebody is put on second base and you lose it when you had a good chance of winning it, that would come back to haunt me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, see, I told you I'm going to lose the argument. And so you make a valid point, and I do get it. And you've always lived by that philosophy. It only takes one game to make or break. You could win the World Series. One game is all it takes. And, flash back. I mean, you went all the way back to 82, 81, 82. I'm going to go to 84, 85, right? That's when you start thinking post-baseball. You start thinking about the baseball, the side of the business side of it. And you said, hey, I was talking to older players, in one of your famous speeches, and you were talking to older players and kind of saw how they exited the game, learning and things of that nature. You put it off, and then at age 34, you started to think about it again, and then you started to think of how you wanted it to be. And here now you have Ripken baseball, right? Looking at post-baseball, the way you thought of it then and now you're in it, did you feel like, okay, you know what, I did the right thing. I prepared myself, and you're happy where you are post-baseball?
So you really did do your homework on me.
That's what I do, Kyle.
I'm an analytical guy.
Yeah.
And I always have been. I love the data. I wish I played in this time because there's more information that can make you, work better and work smarter. And when I was watching players at the end of their career in the back of the bus, I would ask them questions like, do you have any regret? When you look back on your career, and a lot of them would say, I wish I would have played more. I wish I would have taken it more seriously. I wish I would have taken care of myself. All those things. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be in that position at the end of my career. So you started with a sense of urgency, and you try to give it all you got, because you don't know how long you're going to play. I played 21 years, luckily enough, and I didn't want to set myself up for those kind of regrets.
Yeah.
And so you want to plan for your next phase of your life. And fortunately, if you're smart with your money and you save your money, pro sports gives you an opportunity to not have the pressure to do something, but choose what you want to do. And I always thought that if you thought about it and you prepared yourself for the next phase of your life, you're going to have a better chance to get the satisfaction that you got out of the 21 years I played in baseball, but just somewhere else. You because we all need a purpose in life, and if you're purposeful and you're doing something that helps other people, especially, gives you a certain gratification, or business success. I always thought that 20 I spotted 20 years, in the business world, people were 20 years ahead of me. I'm 41. They started when they were just out of college, and I had to make up for it. But a lot of the stuff you learn in baseball, you can apply. That's part of your life. That's part of how you do things, how you work at it. You can control things, in your hands to better your career. The same way you can apply yourself in business. So there was a lot of value coming out of baseball, but I forgot what your question was now, but certainly I prepared myself, for the end. And part of that was listening to, the veterans in the back of the bus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the question, and it sounds like, again, and it looks like, you are doing a phenomenal job post baseball. You just had the strategic investment from, Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, right, to help Kyle Ripken baseball expand. Talk about that investment a little bit. What is it about, and how is it going to help Ripken baseball kind of enhance its business?
Yeah, I mean, I got an opportunity to meet David Blitzer many years ago, and I searched him out and asked him for advice. Just because I always think that your previous life gives you the opportunity to meet guys like David, and then try to pick their brain a little bit. And so I was always like that, and so we got along really well. But when I saw them come into the youth baseball business, and have some of the plans that they would do, we started talking about All-Star Village and about how we could help them. And he liked our management team and the way that the Ripken experience ran. And we weren't really talking anything bigger than that, but those conversations escalated. And, we always had plans for an expansion, but, we had to do it more slowly, more strategically. And, now with the likes of David Blitzer and Josh Harris, those guys then see things more immediately, more immediate. You have access to capital, then you can start to move and grow in a much faster way. And I just thought it was a perfect partnership, a perfect match. And sometimes these things are a matter of timing. It wouldn't be a matter of timing when we met a long time ago, but then you throw 12, 15 years in, and you've had your success, and you've learned from some of your failures, and now you're ready to expand. It was the right time for us to partner and hopefully spread the Ripken experience around everywhere.
Yeah, and is that what you plan on doing with that investment? I mean, we're talking maybe more minor league teams, more youth complexes. Is that where that investment is going to go?
Well, I mean, I do own, and at one point we had success at a minor league teams with the success of Aberdeen, but the part of the dream, like I got into the minor league baseball business and the kids business, but they're two separate businesses, but sometimes they cross over in sort of the dream. And so, the idea is to expand the Ripken experience, maybe expand in other sports. We got really good at the experience and tournaments. And so, even though we know baseball, we want to look into rectangular fields. We want to look into soccer, lacrosse, and use the good name that we developed in experience in baseball to apply that to other sports. So, we're much more open-minded. We're much more prepared and ready to expand than we ever were.
Yeah. How do you handle the business of that, Kyle, right? Now, we're going to get into the other off-the-field business in a minute. You see you got the Sage shirt on. Definitely talk about that partnership. But, I get pitched with youth stories all the time. This youth organization is doing this, and I always decline them because I feel like I don't want to involve the business and youth sports too much. I want those kids to enjoy the experience of learning the sport, of learning the camaraderie, of learning what it means to be a good teammate, a good player, and learning just the nuances of the game and having fun with it without having to worry about a business reporter asking for all those type of questions. So I kind of let that. I don't go to youth sports. How do you run the business of it while at the same time protecting the game and the pure love of it? Because I see so many kids, they cross over and it's about the money for them now because of NIL, but I feel like you're losing that pure love.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think we wanted to combine my dad's love of baseball and his teaching ability and teaching you those valuable lessons through baseball, valuable life lessons that in our camps and those sorts of things we deliver that message, and we want to impact kids the way that you just talked about it. I think me personally had a little bit too philanthropic view of putting together the business. You figured you made a little money, but you can't finance the business each year. It has to be a working model.
Yeah.
But within that working model, you price it accordingly. You give experiences. You can get all the things that you want that we talked about with the lessons for the kids. You can incorporate that, but it still has to wash its own face. It still has to do well. And I think if I wanted to make tons more money, I think you could apply your money someplace else. But the goal wasn't to make a killing in youth sports. I mean, you want to do really well, but you don't want to. I always said maybe you could have invested your money elsewhere and then had your capital, return it. But I took a chance on us, and I say us, Billy, my brother Billy, and I, and we got in there and say, okay, let's use our money to make a difference, and let's bet on ourselves a little bit. We have more control of the day to day. We make mistakes. We learn. We have a good basis and understanding of baseball and youth baseball, period. So we bet on ourselves, and we've been successful. And now the growth will give us an opportunity to look back and say that business-wise, it's been a real success.
Yeah. For getting into the Sage business again, promise to try to get your point of view on how you attract more young black players to baseball, right? Because that's one of the things. We see a lot of people of color in baseball, Hispanic community. I mean, it's great. I love the game where it is. Fernando Tatis, one of my favorite players. Juan Soto, I love it. But I also would like to see people who look like me in baseball, more black players in baseball, right? To guys, I remember Jimmy Rollins when I was coming up in Philly, Ryan Howard. Off the camera, man, you were just talking about hard hitting Mark Whitten, in Philly. And I'm like, man, I wonder where that is going to come from, because everybody goes to the NFL. A lot of, black kids, NFL, it's NBA. I'm like, well, what about baseball? Why not MLB? You're on the youth level. How can we do it? How can we, reset that grassroots movement?
Well, I mean, God, it's a little bit of a complicated question. It seems like pro sports, they're always looking for the athlete, specializing in sports early now.
Yeah.
So everybody's in competition in their sport to try to grab the best athletes around. And football and basketball, has in my lifetime, has really grown. And baseball has continued to be. I used to think baseball was, our sport. And so when you look at it from a youth level, you want to expose as many kids to the great game of baseball, and you want to, and maybe how slow it wasn't appealing to all kids that played. But once you want to educate and get them, and they have the aptitude, and we do that. I know Major League Baseball is really trying to look at certain areas and going in and finding these athletes, the black athlete, and introduce them to sport. And our foundation that we started through my dad, we end up taking many times we go into the toughest areas of some cities. We introduce baseball. We kind of talk to them, but really it's not about trying to find the athlete in that sense. It's trying to expose you to the good things that sports involves. And we've been really successful. But some kids in the city never really, they grab a bat and they hold it like this. They go, okay, don't separate your hands. Put your bat down here. And all of a sudden, the bat head comes flying through the zone. They hit the ball and they feel really great about hitting the ball. And now what's next? What do we do next? So those exposures all the way around. And I think Major League Baseball is trying to do more, just like you mentioned the Latin players.
Yeah.
What a wealth of talent that comes around. But Major League Baseball has gone in to some of these places and had academies and introduced baseball and explained it and shown them the joy of that baseball. And so now some of your greatest players, are from the Dominican Republic, or Puerto Rico, or Venezuela. And so it's more of a world game, which I think we just love the excellence of the people that play the sport. So, I don't know if there's one exact way to appeal to all different athletes, but I know Major League Baseball is doing it. In our foundation, we use sports, to kind of guide them and to make positive choices and learn those lessons about individual responsibility and how to work with somebody as a team. And so it seems like we're all over the place a little bit. But I do know Major League Baseball is working hard through their RBI program, and I think that you have success, and so sometimes it just takes a little time. But I have high hopes for the game. The game is bigger, stronger, faster.
Yes.
Than I played, and so if you feel that you made a contribution to the evolution of the game, you can be proud of what's happening now.
Yeah. If you had, we have a community here at Forbes we call Forbes BLK, and that's a community where, we celebrate black executives, black entrepreneurs, up and coming black business leaders, and I always try to keep them in every part of the conversation I have. And so if you have a black mother, a father with a kid who was an athlete and interested in baseball, and you, Kyle Ripken, they see you and they say, hey, I got this prodigy, I got this kid, and he's teetering for baseball. What advice do you tell them on how to make sure that kid converts to the game so that way we can see more black players?
Well, I mean, I'm an opinion that, I love playing all sports. And so, now the specialization thing, whatever else, kind of gets in the way a little bit because there's pressures to say if you have an aptitude at one, they're going to say you want to focus on that one. I'd like to tell the kid, don't focus so early. Excuse me. Don't focus so early. Give yourself a chance to be exposed to other things and see how you like it, and then make your decision. Because if you have a talent to play at the highest level, a lot of that later on when you're competing against other talent in the same level, it's got to come from inside you. And so you'd love to build the joy and the fun. Baseball is a frustrating game because you're failing as a hitter 7 out of 10 times. So a lot of times just dealing with the frustration and keep your hope positive is really good advice to give kids. But I think overall, I'd love to give the advice to kids is give yourself a chance to play the sports and then see what you like. And then when you invest your time or you really like to do it, now you have a much better chance if you match that internal fire with your with the skills and the aptitude that you have for the sport. So that's my general advice is give yourself a chance to learn the sport. And find out what it does to you. Do you want to spend more time in it? Do you want to specialize in just one sport really early? And I'd like to go by instead of the parent or the coach guiding them all the way through the process, I'd want to energize the kid to kind of let me know where you want to go, and then how can I help you achieve that?
Yeah, instead of setting a direction for them.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about Sage, right? This software company, $11 billion market cap. It's on the London Stock Exchange, but they specialize in accounting and human performance, and we all know that AI is the future, but Sage has been around for a very, very long time. I would imagine, though, Kyle, you don't say yes to everything, right? Especially with your name, Mr. Consistency. You're not saying yes to everything. Why Sage? What made you say yes to them when it comes to partnership?
Yeah, I just laughed at because I always thought it has to make sense for you. Anytime you have choices or you align yourself, and maybe that's a good way to do it in life and business, period. But in the endorsement world, sometimes you get to the big leagues, and then all of a sudden, part of making it is all of a sudden you get to do commercials.
Yeah.
And early on in my career, Jockey Underwear was there with Jim Palmer, and I was coming in. I was in a commercial where I was in a uniform in the locker room with them. And they came at me pretty good, but I would have had to pose in my underwear. And I kept thinking, that's not me. What would my mom think if I did that? So from the very early stages, then I chose a milk commercial. So then by your choices and what you're comfortable with and what you believe in, that's how your brand is built, so to speak. And so I wasn't looking at money and all those things. I was looking at what fits, what's authentic. And Sage is certainly, authentic. They're a data-driven company, and we use them at Ripken Baseball. It makes you work smarter, not harder necessarily all the time, because there's a distinction between that. You get the data. I'm an analytical guy. Mm-hmm. The big leagues, all the analytics now that they're looking at. I wish I played in this time because I want that stuff so I can help make smart decisions, good decisions. Figure out what data is important to you to be successful in baseball. Sage is the same way. Yeah. And that's the business opportunity. So when we started talking about it, I was tremendously excited just for the prospects, but it had to make sense to you first. It has to be authentic before I would say yes, and I really enjoyed the relationship.
Yeah. So all the accounting and all of that, the human resources, human responsibility, human workplace that they have, the human workplace platform, human resources, that's the word, human resources, all of that, the accounting, human resources, that is filtered through Sage when it comes to Ripken Baseball?
Yeah, everybody has those issues that whether when you have a small business or you have a huge business, the issues just become a little bit bigger. But it gives you the tools and the resources to make good decisions as you grow and as you get bigger. And it does allow you to take the data and start to look at it and how does it affect your business and apply those tools. And so it's a tool, just like the analytics in baseball. To me, it doesn't play the game for you, but it's a tool that helps you do what you do that much better and more efficiently. And so I love the activation that they've come up with in baseball. I loved we had a campaign early on where, since I never missed a day of work, played all these games in a row, I was surprising people through Sage, where I was encouraging them to take opening day off, take a day off from work and go to opening day. And we were able to surprise them and give them the experiences, that baseball can provide. So I think it's a cool partnership on both sides, Sage and Major League Baseball. And I'm glad that I can be involved to spread the word and to interact, to provide some activation that is healthy all the way around.
Yeah, you mentioned the word tools, right? And I think that's what it is. And when I'm driving even to the Forbes office, I'm thinking like, AI is such a scary thing. People are making such a scary thing. I'm like, really, all it is a tool, and it's been around for forever, right? I mean, is that how you kind of look at artificial intelligence in this new wave where we have all of these crazy programs that's coming up, Chat GPT and all that? Is it in your mind? Is this hey, at the end of the day, it's still a tool that's going to help us?
So I agree that there's a lot of positive things that have happened in the growth in AI. I'm not, I was right on the edge of learning computers.
Yeah.
For a while. Nowadays, kids learn about it so early, they're not intimidated by anything that happens. With that, it's almost all of these things are tools. I'm a little bit more reserved, and I try to sit back and try to see the value and how you apply that. So I don't know a ton about AI. But I do see it the same way you do. It is that I can see the value, I can see where you can apply it, and sometimes I can see also some of the dangers that might be out there, with it as well. But I think all that stuff kind of settles itself. Success and failure out in the marketplace. We learn how to use it, how not to use it. So
yeah. A few more things. I'll let you get out of here, Kyle. Thank you so much again for the time. You mentioned, you being Mr. Consistency, right? 2,632 hits, 2,632 games, consecutive games. Did I get the number right? Make sure
it's kind of funny. When I talk to people sometimes, and I go, yeah, I was lucky enough I played 3,001 games in the big leagues.
Right.
And I said, damn near all of them in a row.
Absolutely. And that's an important trait because when you think about it, right, I'm thinking when I was looking at all those people who showed up at that game that day in September, and it's like, wait a minute, they came to see a guy who played just every single day. Usually they show up to say, okay, this could be the day that the home run record gets broken, or an RBI record gets broken, or a hit. But they showed up to see you just appear in the game, right? When you think about that amount of commitment that you had to make sure that you showed up to the ballpark every day, and I want to talk about Wally Pipp in a minute, because I know that's where the philosophy comes from. What advice do you give anybody in their career about that longevity piece of it? Like, what would you tell them about making sure that they do stuff like that to see that longevity just extend?
So, the hard part thinking about it is I don't look at it as an attendance record, that you're just showing up. You have to be deserving and you have to put your time in, and the manager chooses you. And I think the streak was formed by the collection of the manager's decisions. We have a challenge to try to win each and every day. And who do I put in the lineup to help us do just that? And so, the 1,000 games kind of went by pretty quickly. I was improving. Our team was good. We went to the last day of the season, 82, won the World Series in 83. We were still good in that rest of the time. So to me, it was important. You can't accomplish anything unless you're willing to show up, number one. And it wasn't my job to make the lineup out. It was, I think it goes back to two, before we get to Wally Pipp, because Wally Pipp is an important story that came from my dad. Mm-hmm. But my dad would always say, you have a responsibility to the team. You can't replay yesterday's game because it's gone. You can learn from it, but you can't play tomorrow's game until it gets here. So we might as well focus on this one. Yeah. And so my approach was, let's focus on this one. And you wanted to be counted on. There was a term in baseball that was called gamer, and my dad his stories about, playing through some injuries and being out there for the team and all that kind of stuff. I think he was referred to as a gamer. And so when somebody looks at gamer, all that means is that you're willing to come show up and try to meet whatever challenge it is today. I thought about my career and sometimes the moments where I wasn't hurt, but sometimes you just feel like you're worn out. Things aren't going good. Maybe I could utilize a vacation from baseball for a couple of days. One such example, I think we played the Red Sox. We lost in about 16 innings, an extra inning game that lasted forever. And we had to turn it around because we had the Boston Marathon game that started at 11 o'clock the next day. So I was 0 for my last 22, I think. And by the way, Roger Clemens is pitching tomorrow. You think, wouldn't this be an easy one to let somebody else meet that challenge and be selfish and look out for yourself? And then I started to think, Roger's going to be hard to beat, but we can beat him. But you have to beat him with your best representative lineup in there. And that particular day, I went out and I got 2 hits off of him. I think I drove in 2 runs. We won the game. And every time I thought where I was feeling a little sorry for myself, I'm going, you don't know what can happen unless you push yourself through those. And I think people look at the streak, in a way, it's a principle, it's a value, and people are really proud of not missing a work in 31 years. We had the umpire attendant, Ernie Tyler. He had a 30-some year streak.
And he broke it to a 10-year game or your baseball Hall of Fame,
exactly.
Right?
And I think parents say, or kids say, I didn't miss a day of school. And so it's not necessarily just attendance. It's actually the willingness to go do it.
Absolutely.
The willingness to show up and say, let's see what's going to happen today. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think that's why it got such a good reaction in 1995.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard, Kyle, because getting out of bed is hard, right? It's a nice cold day, it's hard. But you're right, showing up. It was an incident. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I said, hey, you want to miss this half a day of school? She says, oh no, Dad, because if I don't show up, we don't get a pizza party. I mean, there is a seriousness about that. And again, you go all the way back to when you were young and the Wally Pipp story, right? We're at the 82nd anniversary of the Lou Gehrig speech,
Right.
And that Wally Pipp story stuck with me when you said it, because here's a guy who took a day off because he had a headache, and then Lou Gehrig, all of a sudden, you see what happens to him, right? What people don't tell you about that story is Lou Gehrig did get pulled, and Wally Pipp got his job back, but at the same time, it wasn't like he got pulled. He did start, and he appeared in the game. And so it's like, that story is unique, right? But is there something about that Wally Pipp story other than the fact that, hey, you may not want to miss a day's work because the next guy could be he could be over your shoulder and he'll take your spot. Is there something else that stood out about that Wally Pipp story that motivated you?
For sure, because, knowing the Wally Pipp story, you can add a few things to it, like, and he never played again. He took his job and he played 2,131 games in a row. But there's a principle in there, and the principle was highlighted more when I went into the minor leagues to play baseball. Things weren't going really well at some times, and I'd call home and talk to my dad for maybe some positive reinforcement to say, this is how it goes. It's a tough sport, whatever else. And I went, one time I said, Dad, I am tired. I haven't played this much baseball ever. I'm banged up. I got hit with a pitch in my wrist. I can't hold the bat really good. And I go, so maybe I should just take a couple days off and heal. And maybe mentally I'll heal. And he goes, yeah, you could do that. And he said, but what happens when the guy that replaces you gets 3 hits today?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you know what the manager's going to want to do tomorrow? He's going to want to play him. And he goes, don't let him get 3 hits.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So play and don't let him give the opportunity. So sometimes there's internal competition, within the team that I think a lot of times is healthy. But it's a good motivational force. But if you have somebody pressing you, or my shortstop position job, I was a third baseman through the minor leagues. Got up, and Earl Weaver put me at shortstop, and it was supposed to be a temporary move. That temporary move lasted 15 years.
Yeah.
And because it was temporary, there was always this young whippersnapper shortstop was going to move me back to third. And so many times when they came into the camp and we were looking at that. I was nice to them. I gave them all the benefit and wisdom of what I've learned, how to do the bunt plays, pickoff plays, and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, when we executed any sort of ground balls or double plays or anything, the drills that had to show our skills off, I was competing with that young shortstop. So if somebody was watching, they might say, "Yeah, that kid is good, but look, he's not Cal." And I did that too in my off season with basketball. When the longer I played basketball, it seemed like the younger guys I kept bringing in to play basketball because I didn't want to quit before they did.
Yeah.
And it was a lot harder. And so to tap into the youth and the talent and some of the desire and their endurance, that always helped me. So the internal competitions was a real part. And I think some of that is the Wally Pipp, Lou Gehrig story is you're competing you can only be one regular first baseman. You know, and they have platoon systems that work, but generally you want to take that position and you want to say it's yours.
Yeah, and keep it. Yeah. What's the difference between a good player and a great player?
Everybody that gets to the big leagues has special talent. You know, there's no, their hand-eye coordination, their ability to hit a baseball, their ability to do things on the baseball field, that has been worked on since they were really young, and then they got through it. In order to stay in the big leagues and go from being just good talent to applying and being a better player, I think a lot of it is understanding what's happening around you. I laugh because when I talk about being smart, Willie Stargell had an article in Sports Illustrated once when he said, a lot of people get to the big leagues, but the smart ones are the ones that stay around. And I interpreted what Willie Stargell said to do well in school. I thought that smart thing was what you're supposed to do. But now that I'm older, he was learning that you just had to understand the game, be smart about your sport. But so I benefited from working really hard in school, got good grades. But also, when you start to understand the game, you understand the situations that you're in, you understand yourself, then you can start to take your God-given talent, mold that, and be the best player that you can be.
Yeah. And so it takes smarts, is what you're saying. The difference between a good and a great player, it's all mental, smart thing.
I think so. There's definitely a physical ability. It's sad to see a player that doesn't quite have the physical talent, but he has all this intestinal fortitude, and he pushes himself, and he washes out in AAA, just can't do it. And it's also sad to have a person that has all the talent in the world that doesn't apply themselves, and they don't hang around either. So you kind of wish that you could combine those two type players. But it is understanding the game, being smart, learning what the pitchers are trying to do to you, because all hitters, if you get to the big leagues, can hit all the pitches. And all pitchers that get to the big leagues can throw pretty much all the pitches, and they have great control. It's that cat and mouse game that goes back, that's adjusting and readjusting and learning what's happening to you, that allows you to have sustained success.
Yeah. Get you out of here. 3 rapid questions for you, right? Just rapid questions and 3 rapid answers, right?
I'm not a rapid answer guy, but go ahead.
Well, listen, we'll keep it on baseball and we'll go from there, right? Other than Shohei Ohtani, because that's the easy answer. What player intrigues Cal Ripken the most, Jr. today? Cal Ripken Jr., what player intrigues you the most? Outside of Ohtani.
When I first retired, I had an interest at looking at all the next generation shortstops. Carlos Correa kind of fits in there. Troy Tulowitzki fit in there, and the Orioles right now have had some prospects that come up that were drafted as shortstops, and they're big time talents. So I'm kind of infatuated with Gunnar Henderson right now. He's got all kinds of talent, and he struggled early on trying to get his feet on the ground and whatever else, but now he seems like he's moving a little bit. But I have an interest because when I first came up, the shortstop position was considered more of a defensive position, and sometimes in the old days, their nicknames were Pee Wee and Scooter, and they were smaller guys. And my success, they took a chance on a bigger guy being there. Some of the game's greatest players occupy the positions of shortstop and second base. So I like watching the development of the middle infielders, and it fluctuates from year to year.
Yeah.
So right now I'm watching Gunnar pretty good because the Orioles have a lot of options. Mateo has got a tremendous talent at shortstop, and so I don't know. At some point they're going to have to make some choices on these guys because, as we said earlier, you can't have 2 shortstops, 2 third basemen, 2 second basemen.
No. One got to claim the position. They got to claim the position, and they got to show up to do it, right?
So that was a really long-winded answer for your quick question.
Well, hey, and this one will have to be rapid. Best business advice that you've received and from who?
Best business advice that I received. Wow. As a player, I always knew that there was a business side of the game, but I always tried to leave that up to my agents, and then you do what you're supposed to do and let your agent, negotiate your contract. Probably, and I don't know if I've been as good as this, but I mean, it's your business, and so you should know all about what's happening in your business.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you rely on other people, and I think I made that mistake when I first started, is that I thought that I wasn't up to speed, so I relied on other people to tell me. And so I don't know who gave that piece of advice to me, but you be the person that knows more about your business than anybody on your team.
Yeah. I mean, listen, as a player, you had so much consistency. You had that mentality. You were smart. One of the reasons you're in the Hall of Fame, right? And obviously 2,632 consecutive games played is remarkable, right? But today, as a businessman now, running Cal Ripken Baseball, what is Cal Ripken Jr.'s superpower? And that's my last one. That's the last rapid question. What's your superpower?
I never thought I had a superpower anyway. I mean, it's kind of funny. My nickname was the Iron Man. And sometimes people give me a baseball and say, can you put Iron Man on it with quotation marks? And I always feel a little weird about that. Superpower. And when somebody says, can somebody break your record? 2000, it's going to take 17 years. But my answer always is, sure, if I can do it, certainly somebody else can.
Yeah.
Superpower. That is a tough question. Superpower. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have one particular power or one particular strength.
Yeah.
I had good talent to play a lot of different sports. I had good talent in baseball, and I think perspective is really something good that you have in general, where you are around your business or your life. Perspective kind of guides you in your decisions. Having the right perspective, because somebody else might have a different opinion, but keeping things in perspective to me is and keeping things real, and knowing that you have the ability to impact it yourself.
Yeah. Hey, man, listen, Kyle, I could talk baseball with you all day. I really could, man. And I know I won't get any short answers, and I'll be educated. There's only a few guys in the sport that I really, really love listening to. Yourself, Tony Gwynn, God bless his life. I can still go and listen to old interviews. Kobe Bryant. I mean, there are guys who purely love the game, doesn't mind talking about it, reliving it. It's phenomenal to talk to guys like yourself. I feel like your superpower is the fact that you love and you purely love the game so much, and that comes out. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Good luck with the business with Sage, and listen, good luck with Ripken Baseball and the strategic investment that you got from Harris Blitzer and Sports and Entertainment. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.